Where are all the good Chinese horror movies? For a country with the second biggest box office in 2019 that produced over 1,000 cinema-released, low-budget and made-for-web movies, has yet to produce a horror film with a recognisable status like its Asian neighbours. From Japan, we think of The Ring and The Grudge. Over in Korea, movies like Train to Busan and The Host instantly come to mind. Hong Kong continues to deliver with horror, but is well known for titles like The Eye and In a Sense. Taiwan has been delivering lately with great horrors including the Tag-Along series and Detention. While Southeast Asian countries such as Thailand and Indonesia continue to have a strong horror industry, including classics like Shutter and Macabre, and a slew of modern tales. But China is different. With strong government restrictions on content like violence and sex, two categories horror movies are well known for, filmmakers need to try something different in order to get their movies past local censors. However, on top of that, there are also further restrictions on content such as ghosts, zombies, and supernatural elements. So, if all of those things are restricted, how do Chinese filmmakers end up making horror films? Well, essentially, they cheat the system, and sometimes with quite ridiculous results that can make the audience feel, well, cheated. Hi, I'm the Artie Dance from Asian Film Fans, and in this video, we're going to take a look at a stack of modern Chinese horror movies, from ridiculously low budget to movies with well-known actors in them, and we'll tell you how the filmmakers got away with it. Heads up, there's going to be non-stop spoiler talk, so if you're interested in a particular movie in this list, just skip ahead to the next title. And if you're new to our channel, please consider subscribing to support us. This ridiculously obscure movie is on this list because it's the first Chinese horror movie I watched in a cinema in China, complete without English subtitles, but considering the type of movie it is, it was pretty easy to follow. A reunion party sees two university lovers reconnect. Along with their close group of university friends, they get trapped in a dilapidated building with a killer in a mask stalking them down. Watching the trailer in the background, there is a definite slasher movie vibe from the likes of Halloween and Friday the 13th, complete with a scary doll and baby fetuses. A movie with potential that was, of course, bogged down by restrictions. And for this movie, what were those restrictions? Well, we can clearly see there's an unstoppable killer and a cult of people with masks. Two big no-nos. How do they get around it? Well, would you believe the killer is one of the friends who is jealous of their relationship? Yes, the stalker murdering hulk of a killer was actually one of the small, timid, female characters. It's no wonder I left the cinema in a fit of laughter. For those with access to Tubi, this one is available there, albeit with some terrible English subtitles. What's interesting about this movie is that the official listing on the Chinese site Douban has the movie running at 65 minutes, but the Tubi listing is 77 minutes. So clearly some additional footage has been added for the international release. And it's pretty obvious what that footage was. This movie revolves around a movie producer who is producing adult movies to make money. That's a big no-no in China. While sex is one of the plot devices here, and there are certainly a few steamy scenes, there is no nudity at all, unless you count a topless male. The story involves the hit-and-run murder of the film's main actress, who's also a prostitute, and the subsequent murder of the entire film crew except for the director and his assistant. The director starts seeing the ghost of the dead woman everywhere, and eventually goes to the abandoned factory of his dead producer for the final showdown. And what we have here is the classic modern Chinese horror movie quadruple twist, and it's glorious. First, the main actress is still alive. It's later shown that she swapped bags with another woman, who was the one actually killed, and the police obviously failed to do proper diligent identity checking, declaring the wrong woman dead based on an ID card. Secondly, that woman is being stalked by a crazy man who is desperately in love with her, and is killing anyone she had sex with. Thirdly, it's then revealed He is being controlled by a rich black market organ harvester who is searching for his USB stick with all the evidence of his harvested bodies. So how do we explain the ghosts the director is seeing? Well, in the fourth twist, and one that will really make you upset, this is explained as the director's assistant is actually a police officer who has been hunting down the black market organ harvester, and she has hypnotized the director into seeing ghosts. Not sure why, and he didn't seem to care either. Yes, hypnotism was how the filmmakers got away with having ghosts in this one. This is actually quite a bad movie, with a lot of plot holes, bad acting, and a terrible storyline. Its only redeeming feature is this fantastic shot. But if you like bad movies, then this is one for you. Another movie on Tubi for you to watch is the entertainingly titled Zombie Island, which must be so bad that there isn't any listing of this movie on any Chinese movie site that I could find. A small group of guests check into a hotel on a mysterious island. We have what seems to be a gangster, his girlfriend, his right-hand man, and the two tourist operators, as well as a handful of staff in the hotel. The gangster is supposed to be meeting up with a friend who is also on the island, but all hell breaks loose when zombies start attacking. With nowhere to go until the morning, they are luckily holed up with plenty of food. Yes, real Walking Dead style zombies are in this movie, complete with the biting and the eating and the turning of the dead into the undead. Slow down. Zombies aren't allowed in Chinese horror movies unless they are the bouncing red ones, right? Right, exactly. So how did they get around this? Well, sit down as I try to explain. It's the Japanese's fault. Yes, the island was actually home to a terrible experiment during World War II. If you're thinking Naruto Laboratory of the Evil, then you're on the right track. And two of our hotel workers are actually mad scientists continuing the evil Japanese experiments. Yes, that's right. Blame the Japanese and their human experiments. This is slightly better than The Missing Woman, but the bar's pretty low already, so keep that in mind. A movie that refuses to lift that bar any higher is this supernatural horror film, also supposedly the third in the series of Haunted Road movies, called Untold Body. I actually fell asleep while watching this one, so my recollection is a little vague, but we've got something along the lines of a local man who returns to his village after spending quite a few years in a city studying. The residents of the village initially seem happy to see him at first, and he is certainly very popular with the girls at the local school. But he is given some advice upon his arrival. Don't go to the mountains at night. So like any normal person, he goes to the mountains at night. The village has suffered the pain of children disappearing without a trace, including the son of the local noodle shop owner and the daughter of the woman he rents a room from. Flash back in time a few years and we see that the missing children, alongside our main character, were all friends. One day they decide to go play hide and seek in an off-limits temple and go back the next day to look for their friend, only to find that he's been murdered. They rush back to the village to get the parents, who form a mob ready to kill the person responsible. Only they get to the temple and there's nothing there. In a turn of brilliance by the parents, they admonish the children for lying, who then stage their own disappearance for about a decade and pretend the mountain is actually full of ghosts. Our main character investigates, finding the missing children who are now teenagers, and they recount the story of how they faked the whole thing. He gets angry and pretends to be a madman, trying to kill them, which results in them returning to the village. The lost children, now found. It's a confusing movie, even more confusing when you fall asleep for part of it, that is explained as the ghosts are actually humans who are too scared to return to the village because they think the village hates them for lying. So they fake the whole ghost story thing. At least the movie has some nice sets and visual imagery. We've reviewed Live Game previously and found it less of a horror and more of a whodunit thriller, but it deserves to be on this list due to the similarities it has with horror movies and the restrictions that forced it to be the way it is. This movie does get a few things right. It has a good looking cast and a premise that is fairly solid. It pretty much does almost everything else wrong. This movie tells the story of an internet streamer who's been kidnapped and forced to live stream a show where she must hit a threshold of viewers in a certain time frame. Otherwise, she'll drown in her room that's slowly building up with water. The kicker? She can't tell any of her viewers on the stream what's going on, otherwise she gets penalised. A man who is essentially her big brother, but not blood related, attempts to rescue her while he's being hunted by another man, his mentor. You see, there's an unsolved murder case involving a pregnant woman who happens to be the mentor's lover. She was killed by the big brother because she was blackmailing him to keep a secret. That secret involves the webcam girl who was raped when she was a schoolgirl by two drunk men. This woman and her bully friends spread a rumour around town that she was promiscuous, driving her to the point of suicide until they decide to find a new place to start over. So it's a revenge film then, kind of like I Spit on Your Grave. Well, no, not at all, because regulations won't allow that. You see, while the two main male characters were each acting out their own forms of revenge for their own reasons, they both ultimately end up dead. The final scene has a policewoman sitting with our webcam girl, essentially explaining to her that bullying is wrong and any form of bullying should be dealt with by the police and not vigilante justice. Yes, this is an anti-bullying movie whose purpose is to tell the viewer to be nice to others and report bullying to your local police office. Now on to another movie that we've covered on this channel before, and another movie that features a few plot twists at the end to explain the plot to the audience. This movie involves a rich woman who has come into possession of a beautiful custom-made diamond ring. However, once she wears the ring, really strange things start happening. In fact, so strange are the things that she wakes up the next morning believing she is in the body of another woman, a woman with a terrible scar that works at the jewelry store. This isn't your usual body swapping movie, because in this one we only follow one character, and during the movie we are introduced to a few men who are vying for her attention, the jewelry store owner and a playboy she meets at a nightclub. While everything seems to be going great for the new body swapped woman, she eventually notices creepy things are occurring to her, and she decides to investigate the life of the woman she thinks she is now. In a great scene, we are introduced to a mysterious killer wearing a terrible dollar store plastic mask. So what's the twist? Well, in fact, just like the missing woman, there are multiple twists here. Firstly, the woman, the jewelry store owner, and the girl with the scar are all high school acquaintances. The woman bullied the store owner and scar girl into posing for a photo where she kisses him. He then confesses his love for her, which results in her killing herself. Or does she? So initially, the man and the scar girl hatch a plan involving the diamond ring to drive the woman crazy as revenge. But who is the mysterious playboy? Well, that's twist number 2. Mysterious playboy is actually, drumroll please, a psychiatrist who works in a local mental hospital. You see, in the third twist, the whole scenario is actually a figment of the woman's imagination. It's part of her therapy to deal with the death of her friend. At times this feels like the movie Shutter Island crossed with Inception, except without the budget or Leonardo DiCaprio, or any sense of logic. In the end, this movie is explained as being part of someone's imagination and their therapy in a mental hospital. You can't make this stuff up. Now onto a movie that has taken the interest of Asian film fans viewers by storm. The trailer for this movie became our fastest viewed video in its first week, and with its clickbait title and even clickbaitier movie poster, it's drawn a lot of attention. A lot of people were hoping for Jaws crossed with Piranha, probably crossed with Sharknado. In reality, this movie is none of those. I'm sorry to tell you. Giant Fish tells the story of a Chinese fishing village whose fishermen mysteriously go missing after a large fish is caught by a trawler. A beautiful young woman, Xiao Yi, gets involved in an accident with a local fisherman's son, and after she recovers, she overstays her welcome by sticking to him like glue. Eventually, the rich fisherman in town discovers her secret. She has escaped from a forbidden island that is home to a school of fish people, or just large fish, or strange people. You know, this part's actually not explained that well, but from what I can gather, it is an island whose inhabitants have the ability to turn into large dolphin-sized fish, but only if a human sacrifice is made. The rich fisherman has a deal with the man who lives on the island, who has come to the village to bring Xiao Yi back home. Disappointingly, there is no excessive gore or fish attacks. It's more of a romantic drama with a Shakespeare-style tragedy than a horror film. And I can guarantee you that no one will ever put giant fish and Shakespeare in a sentence again. So how did this suffer at the hands of restrictions? Well, quite simple. You see, anthropomorphic fish is not something the Chinese government will want to endorse a story about. So it's explained by them being mysterious human experiments, because when all else fails, just make it mysterious and no one will ask questions. But that's not enough. You see, our rich fisherman needs to be punished for his avarice. So not only does he end up brutally killing his own son with a spear gun, he also finds out his son was a fish person like Xiao Yi. And because we aren't allowed to have a happy ending, no, not that kind, Xiao Yi transforms from a beautiful woman into an ugly fish and swims away. Yes, that's right, no happy endings are allowed here. The moral of the story? Don't f*** with nature. It actually spells it out at the end of the film, just without using the F word. Not to be confused with the video game of the same name, this movie is very unique, and is also the only anomaly on this list. How so, you ask? Well, this is China's version of A Nightmare on Elm Street. In fact, when I say China's version, I really do mean that. This is almost a one-to-one remake, minus the excessive gore and sex and the cool phone tongue scene of the first film, just with a massive low-budget student film club Chinese twist. We've got the knives for fingers killer. We've got the dream sequences where he appears. We've got a cast of teens who, according to the timeline, should be about 23 but seem to be 18 or so. We've got the parents hiding a secret. We've got deaths galore. We've got blood. We've got implied sex. We've got the fire sequence. We've got Heath Ledger's Joker. Whoa, back up. Yeah, this is the only real difference story-wise, is that the killer, who, not Freddy, is wearing Joker-style makeup. This is never explained, so let's assume the filmmakers thought it looked cool, and it kind of does in a low-budget way. Who has a cool, gravelly voice? The actor is clearly trying to sound like Freddy Krueger, but it's not quite there. He even manages to replicate some of Freddy's one-liners, including, "I'm your boyfriend now," and "your mouth says no, but your body says yes." They're just badly translated in the subtitles. Heck, even the famous bathtub scene has been replicated. So, it's not an exact replica, but there's more than enough here to remind you of what the source material is. The filmmakers have even used the music score, attempting to get away with it by adding this in the end credits. So what we have here is a slasher film, complete with blood and gory deaths about a serial killer who kills teenagers in their dream. How did the filmmakers get away with this? Easy. If you know the source material, then you know how the kids kill Freddy. And that's exactly how they kill Who too. You see, they take him out of the dream world and kill him in real life. There you go. They turned him into a human to kill him. No longer a monster, no longer a problem. If you want to watch this movie, you're in luck. It's currently playing on Tubi right now, and while it's a terribly bad movie, it is still well worth watching for what it is, a Chinese replica of A Nightmare on Elm Street. Oh, and the best part is its full name is Game of Thrones Dead Space. I've said it before, but you can't make this stuff up. But not all Chinese horror movies are low-budget schlockfests designed to fill the schedules of video streaming platforms around the world. Sometimes they cast big-name actors. Matrimony is such a film, made in 2017 and starring my favourite Chinese actress and large-scale tax evader Fan Bingbing, tells the story of a woman who's moved into her husband's mansion but is forbidden from entering a locked attic. But like any normal person who's forbidden from doing something, she finds a way in. and discovers the ghost of her husband's ex-girlfriend who died in a car accident. Initially not starting out as a haunting movie, as the ghost offers to help the wife's relationship with her husband, the ghost eventually becomes jealous of the relationship between husband and wife as it improves. Since it involves ghosts and possession, I think you can probably guess how this one's explained. But to be fair, I'm not going to spoil this one. I think this is a good film and you should watch it. Just be prepared to be slightly let down with the ending. And lastly, we're going to take a look at a movie that is quite an anomaly in Chinese cinema, and that is a horror movie that is a box office success. The House That Never Dies Reawakening, the 2017 sequel, tells the story of a supernatural event in a Shanghai mansion at 81 Chaoyang Menni Street. Starring a swath of well-known Hong Kong and Chinese actors, this movie tells the story of a restorer working on the mansion whose wife experiences a series of creepy events when she moves into the mansion to stay close to him. A parallel storyline involving the same actors playing dual roles punctuates the horror in this movie, as we are taken back in time where human experimenting and sacrifices are conducted to help a besieged newly wedded wife conceive a male heir for her warlord husband, while his ex-wife and true love is cast as an evil witch by the townsfolk. Some outstanding horror imagery and gothic settings are the real highlight of this movie, where its large budget has allowed for some truly creepy scenes and imagery. But as you would expect, the filmmakers weren't allowed to go too far with this film. Following a similar style ending to Matrimony, this entertaining horror film doesn't end the way you want it to, with all the creepiness and ghosts explained in a very non-satisfying way. Especially if you're a true horror lover expecting something like Amityville Horror crossed with Hereditary. Again, because this is a good film, I don't want to spoil it too much. I'd recommend hunting this movie down and watching it, just because, as of right now, this is the best you're going to get when it comes to Chinese horror movies. With all of these restrictions in place, it hasn't stopped Chinese filmmakers from at least attempting to make interesting horror movies. Indeed, in 2020 we have quite a few movies to look forward to, including The Perilous Internet Ring, Beijing Guildhall, Number 82 Haunted House. It's going to be a long time until we get the Chinese equivalents of Halloween-style slashers, Saw-type gore films, or Annabelle-style spooky chillers. Until then, we've got the rest of Asia that can keep us satisfied, while we watch Chinese filmmakers skirt around the draconian restrictions. What are some mainland Chinese horror movies you've seen? Leave a comment below to start a discussion, and in the meantime, if you've enjoyed this video, please press the like button and consider subscribing. See you next time.